The Finding Purpose podcast is proudly brought to you by Relive the Moments, founded by visionary entrepreneur John Lim. We live in a world where it's easy to capture memories, but Relive the Moments makes it effortless to re-experience and share them. From NFC-enabled tap coasters and photo frames to interactive video cards, Relive the Moments turns everyday objects into unforgettable tap-to-experience keepsakes. Imagine gifting a wedding guest a coaster that instantly opens your highlight reel, or giving your event sponsors a custom frame that tells your story with just one tap. Whether you're celebrating a milestone, planning a wedding, honoring a legacy, or elevating a brand experience, Relive the Moments is the bridge between the past and present, between memory and connection. It's not just a product, it's an experience. Visit www.relivethemoments.com and use promo code PURPOSE for 25% off your first order. Let's bring your memories to life, one tap at a time.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Finding Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Adam Vora, and I'm so grateful to have you here. This podcast is all about exploring the journeys of incredible individuals, people who have faced adversity, found their purpose, and are now making an impact in their communities. But it's also about my journey. Over the years, I've faced my own obstacles, moments of doubt, and struggles with identity. Through it all, I found my purpose in giving back, creating a space where people can detach from the negative emotions and stigmas they may associate with their own stories, just like I did with mine. Here, we have real conversations about growth, resilience, and transformation. Whether you're searching for direction, striving for personal development, or simply looking for a place to feel seen and understood, this is for you. So if these conversations resonate with you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on social media. Now let's dive into today's episode.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Finding Purpose podcast. I'm Adam, and I appreciate you tuning in. Whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or watching on the official YouTube channel of the Finding Purpose podcast, thank you for your support. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, leave a review, and share. It helps us keep this community growing. Last week's episode with Lancelot Theobald Jr. reminded us of the power of reinvention, how trauma can be turned into triumph when fueled by mindset, discipline, and purpose. Today's guest carries the same spirit of resilience and vision into the worlds of business, community, and legacy. Luis Omar Figueroa is a seasoned commercial real estate broker, direct lender, and entrepreneur for over 15 years of experience in the tri-state area. An NYU graduate with a background in psychology and sociology, he blends business expertise with a sharp understanding of people, helping clients navigate complex deals with clarity and confidence. As chairman of HGRN Holdings, Omar leads across capital, real estate, media, and investments with one mission: to champion equal opportunity through knowledge and create pathways for generational wealth. Proudly Puerto Rican, a first-generation college graduate, a husband of 22 years, and father of 3 grown sons, Omar is grounded in faith, family, and fortitude, and he brings that same energy and wisdom into every space he enters. This episode is about leadership, legacy, and the power of lifting others up. Let's get into it, man. How you doing?
What's up, Adam? That's a great intro. I appreciate it.
Well,
man.
I appreciate you.
Makes me feel very special.
Well, you are special, man. I really enjoyed going to Kisco and doing your podcast.
Thank you.
That was a great experience.
It was a little less structured, but that's kind of my style, right?
Well, mine really is also in the sense where the themes just kind of emerge, through the conversation.
Right.
And, that's kind of what I want to do with you because, I do think you have a powerful story. And I think the way that you have structured your business to really not only provide services, but also educate people on what's available to them where they otherwise either weren't educated or it didn't even know was available to them. I think that's super powerful stuff. And, I definitely want to dive into it. If you can, maybe start by letting my audience know just, where you're from, what your upbringing was like, and we can just kind of go from there.
All right. Well, originally born in Puerto Rico and came very early. I was born out of wedlock, so that was looked down upon. So my mother came to New York, I want to say 1976. Grew up on the South Side, South Bronx, 196 Jerome, for the people that know who that is. I grew up in the 80s for the people that grew up with me. The 90s is pretty rough down there. She remarried, and, one of the things that she requested from her, my stepfather, was get me out of here. And we moved to Pelham Bay, which is a nicer part of the Bronx. And instead of going to Kennedy High School, which was my designated high school in the South Bronx, I ended up going to Lehman High School, which at that time was considered one of the better high schools in New York City, or in New York, and in the Bronx anyway. And I believe that I meet people on the way. So I had taken, I was thinking already, college is coming, you start thinking with what you know to be your reality, right? People, it's very important. I want to say this, it's very important who you're around for you to really understand what is possible, right? Because if somebody's never done it, they're gonna say no. They're gonna push their self-limiting belief on you. Say, hey man, that's kind of expensive. Hey man, you think that's for you? Hey man, and you not knowing as a young person, and I hate to use the word, but it is the word, is your insecurity, right? You're not sure. You're like, oh, maybe I can't. Maybe I shouldn't. Why am I thinking so big? Maybe I should. Maybe I should diminish myself. That's a word I use on purpose all the time. Yeah. So anyway, I met somebody who she's in the public office, so I can't really say her name, but I was a camp counselor, and I met her. She was at NYU, and she said, yo, you should. I was like 15, 16 at the time. She was like, you should apply at NYU, and that was never on my radar. And I was like, you think so? She was like, yeah. She was like, you're smart, you could do it. She was there. She was like, just let me know if you want help. Anyway. So fast forward, as I continue, going through high school, I applied for NYU. And even my guidance counselor at the high school was like, hey, are you sure? Because, it's an expensive school. And I say that because at that moment in my life, I felt like somebody was kind of limiting me. And I got a little, that's kind of been it's my MO, right? If you tell me I can't do it, I'm going to show you I'm going to do it. So now looking at it, I understand it as an adult, right? Looking back, I'm like, oh, she knows I was in a public high school. She knows finances are what they are. She was just trying to. But my thinking was like, no, I'm gonna go for it. And so I did go for it. And I ended up getting accepted through an equal opportunity program. And when I went to NYU, now I'm gonna date myself, right? One of the first classes we took was internet, right? Like that the internet had just come on. They were like, yo, look at this. This is a computer. And you're like, what? And you're doing, well, anyway. But that's how far back I'm going. So I went to NYU and I met different people from different, I'm from the Bronx, like the corner. Like my friends were on the corner hanging out, like Juice, all those movies, that was kind of us. And, but I was different where I was like, some of my friends, they would smoke and get high, and I wasn't into that. Maybe because my father was an addict, which is another story, but whatever. It wasn't for me. So I go to NYU, I'm in class with like Vanessa from The Cosby Show. You're seeing all these people. You're meeting people from California. You're meeting people that their parents are CEOs of companies. And you're like, yo, this is not TV. This is real life. And I remember one of the most impactful moments I had at school was I was at the Bursar, right? For the young people in the back that don't know what a Bursar is where you would go to pay for your school. And I'm there, and I have scholarships, and I have money orders, and I have all types of money that we scrap together for me to get to my next semester. And the girl in front of me, she was Asian, I believe. She was in front of me. She goes to the front, and she just swipes a credit card for like $20,000. Again, these are things I had never seen. So I'm like, there's this whole fucking world that I don't know about, and it became that became my purpose, right? I'm like, I gotta find out. What's behind this curtain? Like, why do I not know about any of this? And why do none of my people know about this? So fast forward, I get through college and all that, and I open up a few businesses. I had a liquor store and a nightclub, every hood guy's dream. And then I was recruited into the real estate speculation space by an owner of a mortgage bank who's still active, so I won't name him. And he came to meet me his employee was like my little cousin, and he had shown interest in reinvesting in the Bronx. This is going back into the early 90s where it was like, if you're from the early 90s in the Bronx, buildings were like, there was rubble everywhere. It looked like an apocalyptic movie. That's, just being like, I talk to my kids about this now. They're like, oh, that's not true, Dad. I'm like, they Google these photos, like, that's not real. I'm like, bro, that's real. But anyway. So he comes down to meet me. My boy Chris is like, yo, man, you got to meet Omar. Da, da, da. And the guy's like, who's Omar? He's like, my man, he's lit. He calls me up, Omar, you got to meet this guy. I'm like, why do I have to meet this guy? He's like, he wants to meet you. So he comes down. He pulls up in front of the store. This is like 1999, 2000. And he says, listen, I'm originally from the Bronx. I'm now on Long Island. I want to reinvest in the Bronx. And I want to buy buildings, but they won't sell to me. People, they'll see me, they'll be like, no, he was a Jewish guy. So I'm like, okay, so I said, again, I've always been sharp. So I'm like, all right, so how does this work? And they're like, well, you find me a building, I'll pay you 6% of the building's value or whatever we sell for. And that's what's called a real estate commission. And again, I know nobody in the business. So I'm learning on the go. So I'm doing the math. I'm like 6%, 300,000. I'm like, that's 18,000. I'm like, oh wait, these numbers are pretty appealing. So we do the first deal, and I get paid. So now it's real. Now it's not just because you're familiar, you're kind of skeptical, right? Like you hear a lot of shady guys always talking shit. And we talking 20,000 at a pop now. Now I'm like, right? I'm 20. I'm 25 at this time, and I'm like, okay. So the first one. So now I start believing. I find a second one. The next check is like 36 or 45. So I'm like, okay, this is legit. So when I went to collect my second check, he said, come to my mortgage bank. I want to speak to you. Again, I don't even know what a mortgage bank is, right? Just to go back to education. And I go to Long Island, Syosset. I go in. I ask the receptionist, I'm here to see this guy. I walk in, and there's like 100 people on the phone, Wolf of Wall Street style, just screaming in the phone. I have no idea what any of this is. I go to his office back. I got to pass, but like 100 people get to his office. He's like, good to see you. And I'm like, hey, good to see you. And we start talking, and he was like, listen, man, you're doing good, and we could do this forever. He was like, I'm happy with this. He's like, but you have talent. You speak 2 languages. You're educated. He was like, you could kill it as a loan officer. And I'm like, what's a loan officer, right? Because I have no friends. It's a totally different tribe of people. So he was telling me what a loan officer, a loan originator is somebody who gets mortgages for people, they make a percentage of the loan amount, and he's breaking it down for me. And I had walked past this board, which had some really big numbers. I've said the story before, 150, 250, 375, 400. And I'm like, well, what are those numbers? And he's like, that's the gross fees for the month for some of these guys. So I'm thinking $300,000 a month is life-changing. So I hired somebody to work the store. I had the liquor store. I hired somebody to work the store, and I went to my second college, which was learning on the go there. And in the meantime, I had my wife. I had met my wife. I'm skipping around a little bit. I had met my wife, and she had gotten pregnant, and I had lived in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. My mom had just recently got divorced, and I was telling my mom, I was like, Mom, I need more space. I'm probably gonna buy something. And she's like, well, what about me? So then I said, all right, let's buy a 2-family, right? So I started just thinking on the fly. So we bought a 2-family. Boom, we're moving. My aunt, who's like a second mom to me, she gets a lawsuit. She calls me up, mijo. And I'm like, yeah, there. She goes, what you did for your mother, I need you to do that for me. So meaning, find a place for me, get me concierge service, basically, right? Yeah. Without knowing. So I do it for my aunt. Boom. So now my family's becoming homeowners. Now, I'm talking to you this in retrospect, but when I was doing it, I was just doing it, right? Yeah. And I wasn't charging anybody. I was just doing it because this is what we're supposed to do. I believe. That's my belief system. And going back to the bank, so they started, they would start competitions. Like in sales, everything is a competition. It's how you motivate your employees. So they would put, my branch against other branches, and I'd be competing against this other guy all the time, kind of. The girl who brought me into the business, this Cuban lady, or actually who helped train me, she was an underwriter. So there's the origination part, which is writing a loan, right? Then there's what's called processing, where you just kind of get the documents you need to get to completion. Then there's the underwriter, and the underwriter is who deals with the capital markets, credit threshold risk, stuff like that. Yeah, that's the person I needed to meet, because I needed to, again, I didn't know how any of this worked. I didn't even know what I was doing at this moment. So when I met her, I remember she was a Cuban girl, and she'd be smoking cigarettes. We'd be in a room, and I'm like, I'd buy them like dinner or whatever, just so I could watch and learn. Because I knew if I learned how to do this, I could change my own life. I wouldn't depend on anybody anymore. So fast forwarding, I'm going ahead. Then we hit the meltdown of '05, and I had to pivot because, obviously, like, I don't know if you know this, but in '05, I think the government was responsible for about 75% of the lending in America because they had to bail everybody out. But there was this thing called short sales, and short sales are when you buy a property for less than the bank is owed. And, it was so bad during the crisis that banks were letting go of, if you owed me $1 million, give me half a million, you can have it. But there was 6% broker commission fees involved in this that the bank was paying, no questions asked. So that's kind of when I pivoted into the real estate and got my real estate license. I was like, wait a minute, there's like $50,000, $100,000 clips being made here.
Yeah,
I see both sides, so I got into that, and that's how I just keep on learning, man. I keep on learning, and I'm grateful to be on your podcast because I want to be able to just show people that even if you don't know what you're doing in the beginning, if you start taking action, and you move with purpose, and you have a clear vision of where you want to be, you'll get there. If you pay attention, you will get there, man. You will get there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I answered the question, but I kind of
you did,
okay.
and I'm glad like you kind of gave me that bio because there are a couple things that I wanted to kind of point out from it that particularly interest me. Early on, you talked about like self-limiting beliefs, and you also mentioned that you were also the son of an addict, and that's why when you saw those folks on the corner living that type of lifestyle, it deterred you. And oftentimes, especially having it so close to you within your own home, people gravitate towards that life. And what do you think was the leading cause behind you not going that route, having it, that disease also in your family as well?
I mean, that's a monster question, man. Like, in terms of, I've never been asked that question before. I think I'll say this, right? So as a child, I'm a 50-year-old man who has raised sons, who's been in a 23-year marriage, so I value relationships, right?
Yeah.
And I think what really pointed me the other way was simply that, my father, rest in peace, who died when I was 18, he was broken, he was hurt, and as a man now, I can say that. I can say, yo, he was hurt. I can empathize, right? As a child, I got the short end of the stick. I didn't have somebody. So I never wanted to be that guy. Like, I wasn't mad at him because at that moment in my life, I didn't understand what was happening. But then going back to self-limiting or just normalcy, right? We tend to get conditioned. So growing up in the hood, I was conditioned to seeing single mothers everywhere. I met a few people in school that had a mother and father, and that dynamic was different. Like, having a household, having a family, that's a whole different thing, bro. Like, like, it's hard to I don't even know how I would explain it, but it's very completed. And meaning you have two different personalities where you can then maybe bounce your ideas off of two different perspectives. Or let's even get deeper, right? Or you have a male father figure or male figurehead in your household that can teach you how to be a man, how to engage with other men, how to treat women, how to, like, that. It's a big thing. Like, if you start really breaking it down, like, there was such a big synapse or break in culture in the 90s and 2000s because there was such a destruction of the family, right? And a lot of it was addiction. People got addicted. They went down their rabbit holes, and collateral damage was everywhere. So I'm glad that, I was parentified. Do you know what that term means? I was parentified as a child early because my mother didn't speak English. So I had to become kind of like her accountant, her lawyer, her male figure to hold her down. But in that process, I lost a lot of childhood. Like, there was no time for that. So, and I don't say that bitter. I had to become the man I had to be to help my family, right? And I use that story when I tell my kids because I've made it very purposeful as I show them the path. I tell them, look, this is what I would do. You don't have to do it my way. I don't agree with that, or I agree with that, but don't expect me to applaud you when you're doing shit that you shouldn't be doing, and at the end of the day I said, look, you can, you can keep it from me and be sneaky, and that's a way. And again, I don't want that to be the way, but everybody has to kind of figure that part out, right? One time I had a conversation with my youngest. I said, look, you got to figure out what kind of man you want to be. And what does that mean, Dad? I'm like, the kind of guy, the when you're not in the room, what people say about you. That's the type of man you got to figure out who you want to be. If you want to be a stand-up guy, sometimes you're gonna feel like you're taking L's more than winning, but that's in the micro right now. In the macro, you will win so much. I was like, but you got to have patience and you got to have faith. So, yeah, that conversation has been had, and so I feel that's why I went the other way. That's why, because I didn't want to leave that void with. I didn't want to give somebody else or perpetuate the curse or whatever you call it. Perpetuate the trauma, whatever term is really popular right now. But I wanted to stop here, right? Yeah. So and that's, I believe that's what I've done.
Yeah, I mean, I think you totally did, and you talked about the suggestion of NYU by the counselor,
by somebody who looked like me, a Spanish girl who was 2 years older than me, but came from a family that was married. Her two parents were principals, like totally different structure, right? Like you got this stray dog, that's me, and you got this dog in the house, and they're like, yo, you could live like this. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yo, I got to figure out where I'm going to eat every day. You have like 3 square meals, like that type of thing. I'm using that as a metaphor, but you understand, like very different mindset. So when you start meeting people that you can kind of resonate with and be like, hey, okay, you see you think so? And then that's all you need. You give somebody a spark and they'll go.
Well, it's so true. Just the power of one person believing in you. And, I think that's really important. And then, going into NYU and, one of the things when, I set out on this mission of personal growth was really putting myself in spaces that I otherwise wouldn't, quote unquote, belong in and making my presence known. And I put myself in rooms all the time where I, normally wouldn't be,
right.
And I find comfort in that now, where in the past I used to find discomfort. I feel like that was very similar to, your NYU journey, where, someone saw something in you. You're like, all right, like if you don't think I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Talk about being at NYU, coming from, I mean, you said it yourself where like, it was, most of your friends that wasn't the route they took.
Let me give you the attrition rate. The attrition rate from who I went in with and who graduated.
Yeah.
I believe in the program it was like 90 to 100 of us in the program. Graduation, less than 10 of us graduated.
That's wild.
That's fucking crazy. Like I think about it, I'm like, yo, did this? And you see people start falling off, and they self-legitimize. I'm gonna take a semester off. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I even had to take a semester off, but it wasn't because I wanted to. It's because I didn't have the money, right? But I use things like that to kind of get me back to getting on whatever I'm supposed to be doing to make that happen. But other people had a lackluster or more laissez-faire attitude. They were like, nah, it's cool, it's whenever. But I kind of knew, man. I kind of knew, going back to maybe, as you touched on, seeing my dad and seeing all the different people that I grew up with kind of fall off. I had a cousin do 20 years in jail. I'm like, yo, that's not me. It's just not me. Yeah. So I had to do whatever I had to do to kind of go another route.
What was the best advice you got along that journey?
The best advice I got from it was always from like, the best advice comes from the strangest places, my belief, right? Because I believe if somebody's too close to you, you just feel like they're just kind of like, they're just pushing me because they have their own motives. And it came from a communications teacher at NYU, and he was like, listen, the world will give you every option, every opportunity, but it doesn't care. It doesn't care if you do anything. It has no reflection on them. And that to me has always been, is the way I live my life now. I mean, listen, I'm grateful every day to wake up healthy, to be able to move the way I move, right? My mother suffered a stroke in 2017. I was her caretaker, her prox, everything. I was dad for 10 years until she passed away 2 years ago. And I'm like, other people were like, oh, that's crazy. And it was a dark time in my life. I'm not gonna say it wasn't dark because of my emotional state. It was dark because I was enduring. Right? You love somebody, you love your mother, right? She brought you into this world, and you see her, like, she used to be very proud and take care of stuff, and then you see that the person starts, just becoming something else. And
Deteriorating.
Deteriorating. That's a good word. And but I'm so loyal that I was there every week. Like it didn't matter. I was there, but I was doing damage to myself. Not because of anything she was doing. This is life, right?
Yeah.
And you have to kind of, who do you want to be? Like I look at that time in my life, and I'm so glad I had it. Why? First off, some people lose people suddenly, right? And then you never get to say anything to them. That's part one. So I was glad I was able to talk to her. Whether she heard me or not, doesn't matter. I was able to say things that I wanted to say to her. But secondly, she brought me in here to this place called Earth, and I was so glad to be able to be her caretaker and her protector. Like, I protected her to the best of my ability that I know she would want, and there's no better thing. Like, I think, and there's no higher honor. Like, some people, I'm tired. Bro, if you could switch places, the person you're taking care of, I'm sure they fucking switch places in 2 seconds. So stop with the tired shit. Like, find a way. And sometimes it can be destructive, but in it, you can find your win. In it, you can find your strength if you look hard enough.
Yeah, I had a similar experience with my mom where, she got leukemia. And, you kind of watch it slow. It's painful. And, you see someone who was such a force, and you see them in this state, and it's very shocking.
Yeah.
I think that's like kind of the best word for me to use. And, for me, I kind of observed it, and it was just very, like, I also was very selfish in that point in my life where, if I was to reflect back, I probably could have done more, spent more time with her, or prioritized her more. And, I wouldn't say, at the end of the day, everything happens for a reason. And there was like a long period of time where I regretted it. But there were moments along that time that I cherish, whether it's like a moment by her hospital bed and certain points during her treatment that I do remember as good moments, in a way. But yeah, dude, I can relate to that. I think when you lose a parent, it's very different, especially a mom.
Yeah.
When you one of the things you talked about is how the importance of family and how you would set your mom up, and then you set your tia up as well. And I mean, I think that's a real beautiful thing, because sometimes people, start to see success, and they get so tunnel vision, the success they may not prioritize family or the things that are important. How were you able to kind of maintain that focus, throughout your journey? Because I do see also the way that you prioritize your family as well.
So I think I've thought about this question, not this particular, but I've thought about the ways to answer something like this, where you have to be able to see the person for who they are, and if they're asking genuinely looking to put in the work with you. I think I forgot who said it, but I'd rather push you along than drag you, right? So if you're moving and you say like, I've offered my help today, this morning. I was having a conversation on Instagram with somebody who's very high net worth, and I said, look, if you ever need me to pull up in New York, they were dropping a sneaker release in, I think, Philly. So I said, if you need me to pull up with my camera, like, I know you don't need it, but that's what we're here for. And he was like, I really appreciate it. Like, not enough people think like that. Going back to my aunt, she was scrappy, and she knew, but she saw what I did for my mom, so she believed, right?
Yeah.
Because, there comes the part where it gets a little weird, where people have to see some sort of success in you to believe you. Sometimes it's the closest ones to you, right? Like, you got in such good shape.
Yeah.
Well, I sweat I did this, and this. Now you know something. While you're in your journey, while you're struggling and stairmastering or whatever you're fucking doing, people think you're crazy. Like, why are you waking up so early? Why are you in a caloric deficit? Why? Because I have a goal, and I want to get there, and I'm going to get there. Whether you're there or not, I'll be there. But I believe, especially in our culture, and what I mean by culture is not so much Hispanic, Black, white. It's more people that don't have. It's almost like crabs in a barrel mentality, where they have to see you. You have, like, they won't put you up like Simba until you have shown them that you can do it, right? Like on the journey, you're crazy. Like, oh my God, he's going down to this place with no Oh, you're gonna start your own business? Oh, that's crazy. Like, there's no promise of getting a check. What makes you think you could do that? Like, these are real conversations. I was like, because this is who I am. I'm gonna make it happen, right? But then as you start achieving success, and that's the sweetest thing. I remember one time my mom was the first one. She'd always be like, is that legal? You know, what are you doing? Like, you know, and I think it was like 10, 11, 12. There was a run. I had a really big run, right? And so, you know, I'm wearing suits and I'm taking mom out to eat whenever she wants. And I took her on a vacation. I was doing shit that she's never done for herself. She told me, I'm really proud of you. And that little moment, and our life is just a string of moments, guy. That's all it's going to be, was the greatest thing ever. I mean, because she's tried to tear me down for like 40 years, right? That one moment wiped it all clean. Because I was like, all right, thanks, Mom. I appreciate that. Because she believed, because she saw it. And it's not because she didn't love me. It's because it's where she comes from, right? She didn't come from anything. She didn't know how any of these things work. She didn't believe the numbers I'm telling her are real. She worked as a meat wrapper. So she was like, $15 an hour. That's top pay for me. I was like, Ma, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, you know, I made $100,000 this month. Yeah. That's not legal, right? That's the first thing. But as she saw, and of course, everybody was helped, right? If something needed for the house, I took care of it. And she understood, and I was telling her how to do her taxes. Like, I was putting her on the shit that I'm learning for her to benefit, right? And then, you know, like that's the game. The game is putting your people on that want to learn, not somebody who wants to just kind of, and this is what I see in the new generation lately. What's the secret? Sometimes there's no secret. Sometimes it's hard work compounded over years. Why do they call you, Omar? Because I've been doing this for 20 years, right? When I helped their cousin, when everybody else told them no, I said, look, this is why you can't. Let's figure out how you can, or do you have a co-bar? Like, I get creative, right? So I become resourceful. I'm like, what do we have that we can work? So look, if you guys do this for 2 years, then you got it. And they'll come back because they feel loyal. And that is the secret. The secret is investing in people, right? But people that also want to make it happen. Not people that are just going to wait for you to do everything for them.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that you pointed out was that people, you know, obviously project their fears onto you. And, you know, at some point you just need to disregard it. Quick break to shout out our sponsor, Relive the Moments. Founded by John Lim, they're redefining how we share memories. From tap-to-play photo frames to interactive coasters, they turn ordinary objects into powerful, shareable experiences. Perfect for weddings, events, or milestone moments. Relive, reconnect, reimagine. Check them out at www.relivethemoments.com. Now back to the show. You know, talk to me a little bit about how you struck on, you know, where people care so much about people believing in them. And even though these people need you to prove it to them. And for me, it's funny because that matters less and less to me about proving it to other people. And
because you're secure basically in what you're doing.
Yeah, it's because I'm secure in what I'm doing, and I believe in what I'm doing.
Right, but you've had some sort of success.
Yeah.
To validate yourself. Right, because in the beginning, it's always like, can I do that? Like I remember my first. Yeah. I remember my first loan. My first loan was $100,000. My check was like nothing, like $2,000. But it was the turning point of theory into reality. I was like, oh, this does work. Like, because I had never done it, right? So, and that's loans. Like real estate I had done and I got paid. I was like, okay, so it works, so I can double down. But it's that curve where you're like, yo, is this possible? And then you get some sort of smaller success, which builds your belief system, and you go after bigger success, right? Because I could do this. I could do this as you climb the mountain, right?
Yeah. In the face of challenges, you know, what has been your recipe for success when facing them? And obviously every challenge is different.
No, yeah, absolutely. So the one thing I've noticed is that things are never as bad as you think they're going to be, right? So like you got to walk into the fire. And the second thing is you take one step at a time. So like I have a saying in my company, one crisis at a time. So we're going to get to step 10, but let's get through 1, through 2, through 3, because everything has their own challenge. But as you get to 10, if you wiped everything out, going back to belief, right? I wiped out 90% of this shit. What's this? Like there's more, like before we started the podcast, I have a really, really complex deal that most people were like, no, it's not possible. It's closing Tuesday. It was one last piece. I got it done. It's done. And it was overwhelming in the beginning because I was doing 6 deals at the same time. He bought a building. He's converting them into condos. So I have to separate the loans and finance each individually, but they have to close at the same time. So it's a little. You need to have like some sort of a good grasp of the abilities to do it. And my team was like, "Oh, that's crazy. How are we going to do that?" I was like, "This is why we start. We start here. We start there. We start." And so as we start checking them off, they're getting hyped. They're like, "Oh, we're going to close this shit. Oh, wow, $6 million. Here we come." Like
Yeah.
But they don't have the ability to explain because I'm not saying they don't have the education. Just I dive in. The answer is dive in. Find out what you need to find out. Control what you can control, and then you start process of elimination. That's it. That's how you deal with any crisis, any big problem.
How was your mindset early on as compared to what it is now?
My mindset's always been the same. My mindset is it's all possible. I just have to figure out how. That's really it. Like, I mean, when I don't get too personal. There's certain deals I've done where I had no business doing, but I made it happen. And in the beginning, you're like, oh my God, right? But I said yes, so let's do it. And you start chipping away, and it kind of lines up. It's almost like, yo, how you can lose weight? All right, well, caloric deficit is one thing. Exercise is another thing. Like you put the pieces together. That theory is fine. Yo, look, just do these things, right? Now go do them every day. In the beginning, you're not going to see any results. And that's the secret time. The secret time is when you don't see anything, you get up anyway. Same thing as work, right? I'm opening my own company. You have any clients? No. How do you get clients? Well, you start marketing yourself. And it might take a minute, right? But you got to keep on every day. And you got to always have that hospitable personality where you can't work for the dollar. You got to work for the relationship because the relationship pays off dividends in the macro. But it's hard to tell somebody to do that when they're worried about paying their Con Ed bill or, whatever small bill that's coming. It's looming because that's in the back of your head. But it's just the way you approach it.
Yeah. I think nowadays it's like really hard to just get people to buy into the long game because they're comparing themselves to what other people are doing and they see it. It's just pumped through their cell phone to them every day. And now I think people just love like immediate results, instant gratification, instant rewards. So, when it comes to the long game, because you've been playing the long game for a
long time,
this whole time,
Yeah.
And how do you get your team buy into that?
Well, listen, my team, they have a structure of salary plus a small override. So whenever we close, they feel better. But so this is a really good question because this is for anybody who wants to own a business. What I struggled with in the beginning and I got better with because my wife helped me is that you have to outline what your responsibilities are, what their responsibilities are, right? You have to outline, they have to be definitive. They can't be, I thought you were gonna, no. This is what I expect. Master that. Now, sometimes people will show you that they will have more aptitude and then they can grow. Some people can't. And some people have egos for no reason that will never allow them to grow. And that's not your fault. Going back to being a CEO of companies, people say, hire fast, fire faster. That's hard. That's hard because as a human being, you want to look at, for the best in everyone. I'm speaking for myself, right? I'm not going to say everybody in America does that. But there's that hard line that you have to find for yourself. Be like, hey, man, this is not going to work. This is why. And it's not a personal thing. And if you enable people to believe they're something that they're not, you're actually doing disservice because they're going to go somewhere else and somebody else who has no relationship with them is going to tell them some crazy shit. And they're going to run back to you, yo, man, why you never told me? But like, because I felt bad for you. But feeling bad, like, again, being a human and being a comrade in business, very separate. Like the human, like I've had this conversation. Are we having this conversation as CEO to employee, or are we having this friend to friend conversation? Because they're two very different conversations. And I'm comfortable with either one, but you got to be open to either one. And when I frame it like that, it changes it. People understand because as a friend, like I'm Mr. Goofy, I'm Mr. Fun, but when it's time to be serious, I'm the one at the office at 9 a.m. till 7 o'clock at night. When I have to get my head down and get a deal done, you don't see me. People on social media think they see me, but that's all old data, right? That's just to keep me in your mind while I'm working, making the donuts. Right. So, people have to understand that, visual perception is not everything. You have to understand that there is hard. If you want to have anything big in life, I use that word very strategically. If you want to have a big life, you have to do big work. You should not feel entitled to be, I'm the biggest guy. And well, what have you done? I went on Instagram Live for 20 minutes. Nah, man, that's not how it works. Or, I want a lot of followers like you. I'm like, for what? So I can get business. So when they call you and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, a lot of people know really quickly. Is that what you want? Why do you say it like that? Because you don't know what you're doing. Like, you don't want that yet. I'm telling them, you don't want that. You don't, believe me, you don't want that because it will expose you. And in the same way, it could be positive. It could be very negative. You can have a lot of people saying bad shit about you all online, and then you got to fight out of that hole.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, just going back to your instant gratification, like, yeah, people want instant results, but enduring, if you look, you look that word up, is having the ability to stay even during long periods of time. That's strength. And that strength is what separates the 90 from the 10.
Yeah, and I love what you said about ego in business and ego really in any space is toxic.
Yeah.
When it comes to just the ability to grow and the ability to develop and the ability to get better on a daily basis. One of the things for me, like I don't really fuck with people who have big egos, bro. Like I just don't.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I don't is because I know they will always put themselves first before a shared goal.
Understood.
They'll
Understood.
always care more about how they're going to appear,
right,
more so than, hey, let's get this job done. Or having a willingness to meet halfway if they need to sacrifice a little bit. And that's something where, I mean, obviously, what I mean by that is, I mean, I'm not going to say I haven't worked with big egos.
Sure.
But it's also just like understanding that you got to be a little more crafty with them, and
you have to know how to manage them.
You have to, without them knowing they're being managed.
Absolutely.
And, but like one of the things for me, it's like I'm usually a very good judge of character when it comes to like, hey, like we'll have good mutual synergy.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be able to get something done, and everyone can walk away from this happy. Like, because I find that a lot of the folks who I don't want to say a lot of the folks, some folks that I've come across that have big egos, it's not really the ego as much as trust. Where I'm like, they'll stab me in the back tomorrow to make themselves look good.
That's horrible.
That's
right? Horrible, yeah. I mean, that's why I say I use these two terms. If it's a customer, it's somebody that is strictly transactional.
Yeah.
If it's a client, it means I have clients that pay more just to do the deal with me.
Yeah.
Because they know somehow, some way, some shape, some form, they're going to get so much value, whether it's just this transaction or if it's a business that they own, I'll be there with my people, or, there's more to it. And that's the part people don't understand. Like the mom and pop shop compared to Amazon, right? Amazon's good if you just need a toothbrush, whatever, really quickly. But, I personally go to my boy Scotty K's Mamaroneck for my protein powder. Why? I grew up with the guy. And if I'm short $5, he'll be like, send it to me later.
Yeah.
Amazon's not sending you shit. They're like, hit me back when your credit's available.
Yeah.
So just the little things I'm like, and I think to piggyback on what you just said, the best leaders know how to play every position, right? Like, yo, man, you can't do it. All right, I got you. Okay. I mean, of course, you don't want to be exploited, right? You don't have to do everything. But if you're not feeling good, be like, I can't do this today. All right, so what do I got to do today? This? All right, I got you. Let me do it. And then when you're ready, jump back in.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I think I found that to be the best thing.
Dude, it's so accurate because I've been in roles where there were people in leadership positions when push came to shove and they had to fill another role. It was almost like, well, that's not my job. Well, you're actually the leader of the team, so everything's your job.
Any job is your job.
And that's kind of how I approach any project that I embark on, where I need to know how to do every single role. In case, but also like I just need to know just to know, because if I don't know, then I won't know when you're making a mistake. I need to know how to do it every single role, so that I can also guide you and help my team get better. Because otherwise, I'm useless as a leader. I feel.
I think that also touches upon the fact of, do you want to be? I'll use there's so many synonyms for it, but craftsman. Do you want to be the expert in your field over the leader. Like, I have so many conversations with different people. A lot of the banks that I sell to, my credit facilities, they have outsourced. India and China, all types of places. I don't even know who I'm talking to sometimes. And they'll send me a form and say, hey, we need this. I'm like, okay. I send back something that is more than what they need. I don't want to go too specific. Anyway, but it's like, yo, this works. They send me back. We need this. So then I go past them like, listen, guys, I've just had 3 emails about, I think this is good. What do you guys think?
Mm-hmm.
We're good, Omar. I'm like, okay, thanks. Like, going back to patience and confidence, where before, like early in my career, like it was on. We were arguing. But now I'm starting to learn that in my industry, especially, when things are up, they hire a lot, right? So the people that are there, they might not know much, whatever, they get going. But then things get bad. So they fire all the expensive people first, right? The VPs and the big salaries. They got to come down. They got to get out of there. So who do you have left? These bananas that started back then, and eventually they're still working for less. Now we're going to a market that I believe is going to, the market's starting to stabilize a little bit, so we're going to see a little bit of movement again. But I'm dealing with old bananas. Like right now, like going back, I'm like, all right. But I walked through the furnace of 05. So I saw when all the shit. So I'm like, all right, whatever. Another day in the neighborhood. So like you got like, if you're truly a craftsman or an expert, you got to learn to navigate people. And going back to your statement about being leaders, that's an egotistical thing. I'm the leader at my building in Soundview. If I have to plunge a fucking toilet because one of my clients clogged it up, I'm the leader. Let me CEO the shit out of this plunger. You know what I mean? there is no, like, yo, it's either that or nobody uses the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
So like, come on, guy.
It's true.
But I think corporate America, especially because they need to structure and direct a mass amount of people, right? So they try to make it that way. But going back to what you said, like the greatest leaders are the ones that sit next to you or are side by side with you, not leading from the front.
Yeah, no, totally. You know, obviously, like we talked a lot about your business journey, you know, for a moment, like kind of like self-reflection, like what do you think is the biggest thing that you learned about yourself along the way?
I have the ability to endure. That's the biggest thing. I mean, listen, when we go for business, we go for my mother being sick, we go, me, burying family, my cousin dying of cancer, I had to carry her body. Like, I have a high threshold of pain. Right now I'm talking to you, I have a cracked tooth in my mouth. And it is what it is. Like, I have the appointment, but I broke it playing basketball. And it went away after a few days of pain and whatever. So I go get a cleaning. They're like, yo, Omar, your tooth is cracked? I was like, I know I had a pain. So, so I think that's my thing. One of my weaknesses, I believe, because nobody talks about that, right? One of my weaknesses, I believe, was egotistical, whereas I expect everybody to look at the world like I do. And that's not good. You have to meet people where they are and work with what you have, right? Because if not, you're going to be disappointed a lot. And for a moment, I was disappointed a lot. And that's something I had to learn. I'm still learning, right? Like I there's this saying, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And that's both ways. Like if you're working with employees, like this is what I need. Can you do this? Yeah or no? And it's not what they say, it's what they do. Right? Like I've had people come to me, yo, I want to work with you. I want to do this. Why? Oh, I want to drive a car like you. Okay, sounds great. I'm thinking anybody I give a shot that comes from less than great means will. Yeah. But no, they have their own egos and they feel like they're too good to do certain things. And I'm like, bro, you live with your moms. What are you talking about? Like, what are we talking about? Like, but I have to learn how to meet and then manage it. Hey man, I don't think it's gonna work out. Yeah. No, cool. If I see you, believe me, I think you're cool. But the professional side of me, like, we can't cohabitate. Our culture is too different. That's the conversation I really had. I said, we're just too different in culture.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like really important to be able to like kind of see right away too, when you just know the vibes.
That was hard for me. That was hard for me because I'm thinking, again, believing that people want what I want. Yeah. That's not the truth. People might want the result. Yeah. Or the things that you get from hard work, but they don't want the hard work.
Well, it's funny because like one of the things for me that I've also like come to understand when, you're working with a team, and I recently heard a TEDx speaker talk about it. Her name is Claude Silver, and she works with like Vayner. Mm-hmm. And like really also like listening to the people who are working for you and really listening to the folks who are helping you reach your collective goal and not kind of understand where they're coming from. Because if you understand their why and why they're on your team, then you'll have a better understanding and what you need to put in place for them to be successful in their roles. And that's something I've definitely gotten better at, where, I listen to, whether it's a client, whether it's someone who works on my team, I'll be like, all right, like, what's your motivation behind it? And not only your professional, but your personal motivation. A lot of, maybe it's because the amount of work that I'm giving them, fits squarely in a nice pocket of time that allows them to also spend time with their daughter, or, so like those things that are really important to them matter to me, because I don't want them to have a resentment towards me because I'm giving them too much work because they aren't able to spend with their family, so like I definitely, prioritize understanding the people. And I think when I do that, then I also get the maximum output out from them, know.
And you actually adjust your expectation.
Yeah.
Right. You're understanding this is what I'm going to get.
Well, as a leader, I also understand, okay, like they're limited here, so this is where I'm going to have to fill in.
There you go.
And then I only have myself to blame when there's a hole, knowing full well what they've already said.
Right. They told you already what they're doing. Yeah,
so it's super important. You also mentioned like some heavy shit in your personal life that you had to endure while all of this is happening, all this building is happening.
Yeah.
Do you mind shedding a little bit of light of that on
you want this to be the first
things?
podcast I cry on? Is that what you're trying to do right now? No.
Well,
he loves me, this guy.
Well, I think that, a lot of the folks who, a lot of the times when we are on this podcast, like life also happens.
Yeah, people go
alongside
through
your professional journey. And leaning into that messaging is really, really important. It gives my listeners, a more personal understanding of what your journey really was like.
All right, so I think one of the hardest things I had to deal with was when my mother got sick, right? And it was March 31st, 2017, and I got the call, right? They found her, she was on the floor. So what I did, unlike the way I grew up, I shielded my sons and my wife from it. Not because they didn't want to help, but going back to emotional IQ, I know my wife can deal with certain things, but emotionally it would shatter, right?
Yeah.
My boys, going back to being parentified as a child, I didn't want them to have to deal with that and then lose their childhood, right? They were like 12 and 15. They were kids still. And my oldest was older, but he was out of state. So what I did was I had saved some money, and basically business was usual with them. I was not around as much, but school, beach club, like things that we had set in place, I wanted them to keep doing that. And then also what I did for myself, I tried to do as much as I could personally, but then I understood what my key role was. My key role was patriarch, leader, financial crutch, right? For my family, not just my kids. My mom now she's my daughter, use that metaphor. My sister, who is now because she has no financial, like I had like two families.
Yeah.
So then I was like, all right, so what do I do? So Medicaid and Medicare, and I love America, it's the greatest country in the world. I'll say that because I don't want to sound bitter, but they take their own time, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I had to finance home health aides. I had to find all out of my pocket. And I tried to stay with my mother as much as I could. But I came to a certain point where I realized, I was like, yo, if I'm sitting here staring at this all day, I might shatter, right? So then I got the health aides to cover. Then I went to the office, and I was very transparent with my clients. And especially when it first happened, they were like, the greatest thing was that I really, going back to that word, right, clients, my biggest transactions those years, and multi-million-dollar transactions, they were the most understanding clients. They're like, yo, praying for your mother. Let me know if this is ready. What do you need from us? They were very cool. Other people, like the $5 people, like the customers, oh, I need you to call me back. I'll go somewhere else. And do you know what kind of self-control that takes, bro? Because I'm broken right there, and I want to fight everybody, right?
Yeah.
Like, so give me a reason. You know how much self-control it took me. I was like, look, sir, I understand. Maybe you should go somewhere else. Maybe, and that's kind of how I started understanding the value of good people, value of proximity, right? These things I talk about on Instagram all the time. This is my life. This is I'm not making shit up to sell you something. These are my lessons at 50 that I've learned that maybe they could be useful to you. And I was able to kind of, ritualistic thinking is, right? When you go somewhere, you do something, right? So if I go to the office, grief and work very well hand in hand because it doesn't allow you to grieve, right? You're busy. You're busy trying to figure out problems, right? So you don't have time to sit there and wallow. And that's why I feel so many people dive into their careers when things are not going right in their house, whether it be somebody's dying or the marriage is not doing too well or their kids are addicted or whatever, whatever like tragic shit that could happen. So that's what I did, man. I created a structure and I survived sticking to the structure, to the discipline. The discipline is what saved me. Be like, this is what we're doing. Of course, there were certain days that my discipline got shattered because, she had a relapse or she was in the hospital. Something crazy happened, so I had to deal with it. But for the most part, I created an ecosystem of discipline to not allow me to have too much time to sit there and just like marinate in grief and depression, right?
Did you ever take that time?
There was a conversation I had with my wife at one point, and she told me, she said, listen, I understand what you're going through, but your boys are growing up. She said, I'm going to be here, but you might look up, it might be a year. Like, I had to understand that this was a marathon, not a sprint. Like, I didn't know how long this was going to go. So I had to figure out.
Yeah.
So I was depressed for a certain amount of time, and I don't think I came out of that depression for years, but going back to my ability to endure. I see pictures of myself at certain times that you can see I'm smiling, but I'm not happy.
Yeah.
I can identify that. And at certain points I was like, yo, what's going on with me, right? I had like almost out of body experience. You're like, yo, who is that guy? And you had to come to grips. Like, there was a point where I spoke to somebody and he was like, yo, you're not a neuro, like, I don't want to sound crazy but like I deep dove into, strokes and this and what like I was going to cure it.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I went, right? Cause that's who I am. So my boy was like, bro, listen, this is just, he had suffered something similar. He's like, bro, you don't know how long it's going to go. So you need to pace yourself first. Second of all, it's not your fault. And third of all, do what you can without breaking yourself. He said these words are all on purpose. I'm not judging you. Just understand. Write this shit down. He told me, look at those words. And that's kind of what I did. And you build a second level of surviving.
Yeah.
But the day when I got the call when she had passed, bro, like, that shit was shattering. Like, I had to pull over, bro. Like, the shit you see on TV, like, oh, what's wrong? Like, when you're young, you think, oh, this is so stupid. Like, I could plow through that. And the crazy part is, as men, I believe, we are trained to do that, right? And me particularly, as a young man, I had to train early to do that. And you can live like that, but there's a cost because you're gonna sacrifice other relationships. You're gonna when you put the blinders on, you sacrifice a lot of other stuff. And like grief, like, who talks about that? Like, no, like, now we have the second coming of people talking about their feelings.
Yeah.
But my generation, bro, like, nobody talked about that shit. They're like, yo, man up. Like, suck it up, bro. And you can to a certain point, but like, going back to it being my mom, which was my world, that I didn't know, bro. Like, I didn't know how to deal with that shit. So eventually I went to therapy, and he, a lot of it is based on guilt and a lot of it is based on boundaries. But I had to have a professional talk me off the ledge a little bit, like, yo, like, you did what you could. Like, he was like, you did great. And because you're going back to what you said earlier, you feel guilty. No matter.
Yeah.
And what do I have to feel guilty about, man? I sacrificed everything. Like, I should have cured it, like, right? Because somewhere in your head, well, I'm talking for myself. Somewhere in my head, I'm thinking I could have, and going back to my mindset, that's how I always think. So imagine if it goes against you.
Yeah.
Right? It's something like that. And something so emotionally close to you.
I mean, that's something I can relate to. I remember when my mom, when my mom died, and, even when she died, when my best friend committed suicide, in those moments, it was like really fear and anger that really was the driving factors behind it. And kind of just getting into that tunnel vision, like you just outlined, that's exactly what I did. And I didn't really unpack that shit until like, a few years ago when I was really able to be like, hey, like, how did that dictate so many things that happened and so many decisions that I made in the immediate aftermath of that? And had I unpacked that then and actually allowed myself to feel and just pause for a fucking second, how differently could things have played out in the long term? And that's the reason why I'm asking, because I do think that's like really important to talk about these kind of things, because it does influence you. And I do like what you said about like how like grief and routine and work oftentimes can be convenient distractions from one another. But I think it's cool that you like had the opportunity to kind of sit down and have that conversation with your wife, where it's like, hey, like, look at your family too. Like, this happened to your mom. Like your son's also like,
you still got us.
Time.
Right? That was it. That's right.
Time.
And they're going to keep passing. It's going to keep passing.
I appreciate that, man. Like, when you talk about, your, because I know you love your family, and obviously, we had spoken briefly about faith, and I, like, in these moments, and really any like trying moment, how important is faith to you?
Okay, so this is actually a very, very strategic topic. I was raised Roman Catholic, and when I say raised Roman Catholic, I've done all my sacraments. Mom made sure I did all that stuff, right? And my wife she's non-denominational. And we're both. I'm very spiritual. I believe in ascension. But one thing I've always noticed, even when I was a kid, like, people like they pray, oh, God, give me money, or God, give me. My one thing was always, oh, give me strength. Give me strength. I'll figure it out. Just let me get to the next thing. Yeah. And that was always, and that's kind of how I live my life, man. Just give me the strength to get up, and I'll figure it out. I don't need, just let me open my eyes. I'll make this shit happen. So that's always kind of been it. And listen, from having my hips replaced for a decade later, because when my mom got sick, I had hip pains, but there was no time for that. There was no time for me. There was time for this. And then later on, I started limping, and I'm like, oh my God, like, it was unbearable. I finally went to the doctor, and they were like, you have no cartilage. He's like, how are you walking, and what drugs are you taking? That's what he told me. I was like, I'm walking because I have to, and I don't take any drugs. I said, and I still play basketball. He's like, well, you can't fuck them up anymore.
Yeah.
So then I ended up getting my double hip surgery, which is crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah. Which is but it's a testament, right? Like, if there's a fire, I got to deal with the fire. Forget how I feel. It's like my hips are broken. Oh, my kids are coming out the house. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, chop my arm off, they're coming out. So that's just kind of how I do it, man. And it's a good thing, and it could be a bad thing, because you can grind yourself to dust if you're not careful.
Yeah. What does the word purpose mean to you?
Purpose means what you're looking to do, right? To impact the world. That's what I believe. And my purpose is to let everybody know it's possible, whatever it is. Whatever it is. If you want to be financially literate, if you want to buy something, houses, if you just want to be a good father, you could do it, man. Like, but you got to work at it. Like, it's not like you don't wake up, hey, I'm perfect. No. You got to put the work in, And my purpose has always been to show people that, why not you? Like, I feel that everybody has a purpose in this life. And one of the things that I lacked severely when I was growing up was representation. Like, there was nobody on TV that looked like me. There was nobody who speak educated, but had like a little bit of urban style, or could wear a suit. Like, there was nobody, like, you were always in a box. And so I've become the guy outside the box for the guys that might identify with that. And I've had a lot of good feedback lately. Like recently, I go to different events and stuff like that, and they're like, "Yo, oh," I don't know them. They're like, "I follow you, man. You represent us. I fuck with you. Thank you so much." Like I felt like I didn't belong, but you show me we could belong. And the last thing I want to touch on with this is code switching. All right, I had a conversation with somebody, and it really bothered me, and we got into it. So it's not code switching, guys. It's speaking to the audience or your person in front of you in a way that they can understand. So if you're speaking to a college professor, your vernacular should match that. If you're speaking to your boy in the corner, your vernacular should match that. You're not trying to be somebody you're not. You can be all these things. And that's important to me because people like to pigeonhole. Oh, he can't do that. Yes, he can. Why? Well, he doesn't look like he. What does it matter if he looks like? If he's properly trained and he's proficient, give him a shot.
Yeah.
Right? Like that becomes my thing. Some of my look, I have my client I was on the phone this morning, a Russian speculator. One of my other clients, German scientist. Another guy, Italian entrepreneur. Another guy, highly respected Puerto Rican official. I mean, everybody. It's us. It's us. They have a goal, and my purpose is to help you. And my purpose and my ability to communicate is what separates me from most people.
Yeah, I love that, man. What advice would you give to someone on that journey of finding purpose?
My advice to you is simply to make sure you're doing it for the right reason, and the right reason has to be in alignment with your beliefs. And you can't fake that. You can only fake it for so long. If it's not real, it will come out. It will come out. It will manifest itself in a negative, positive way. Somehow, some way, it will find its way out. So you got to figure out what's real to you, what your purpose is, and double down into that. Look, making money should be a byproduct of your purpose. Or in the beginning, you got to make money so you can find your purpose. So I get it, right? There's different parts of our lives, but consistently long game, it will come out. So find out what you're passionate about. And my passion is to help people, right? When I was denied my first mortgage, and people tell me I suck, and I was like, what? I was like, hell no. And then, I got it. I was like, this should be for everybody. Like me doing it with my mom, then enabled my aunt, who's from Puerto Rico, doesn't speak English, was a bus driver, got into an accident, got some money, to make sure it's possible for her to be a homeowner. That's big. Like these girls were from Section 8, right? So that's the goal, man. Everybody can find a way.
Yeah. I love that, man. Listen, man, I'd love for you to talk to my audience and tell them how they can get in touch with you, what you have coming up next, and anything additionally. And I'm super grateful to have had you here, bro.
No, man, me too. I'm sorry I was late.
It's
Ask Luis Omar on all platforms. I might be speaking at something in Connecticut soon. I'm not sure. But you can hit me out any questions, man. I'm there, and I'm going to be more purposeful. I'm getting Soundview ready so that I will be hosting the party. It'll be it's a real estate mortgage bank legal firm, but we'll have a big content area, and I hope to host events there and make it a spot to be.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, Luis Omar. See, it's funny because I know I call you Luis.
Call me whatever you want.
And then it's like, but then it's like, ask Luis Omar. So whatever.
It's Ask Omar. Oh.
Well, either way, I'm super grateful that you made the trip down here. I'm really happy for our conversation.
Yeah,
grateful that you invited me down to your studio.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to connect with Luis Omar, feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to connect you directly with him. Folks, I just want to shout out a couple people. I want to shout out Claudio, Kai Visions here. Any of your content needs, feel free to reach out to me or him at Kai Visions, and we'll make it happen for you. Additionally, I want to also thank my sponsor, Live for the Moment, their CEO, John Lim. Been an amazing partner. I can connect you with them as well. They do all sorts of different activations that you can utilize for your events. You can utilize corporate. You can utilize it however you'd like. I'm happy to connect you with them. I'm sure you saw a couple of the promo commercials within this podcast. And last but not least, I'm super grateful for all you guys coming in and supporting me and commenting and liking and sharing, DMing me with questions, and couldn't be happier. So feel free to reach out to me at @AdamVora_ or at Finding Purpose Pod, and we're just going to keep this movement going. Thanks, guys.